Welcome back to Own Your Yes. I'm Dr. Phyllis, your coach. And the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Or if you want to say mental wellness, it's all about really making sure that we tune in to our emotional health and wellness. And over the next 4 weeks, which is over the next 4 episodes, we are going to be discussing under the theme of unseen, unspoken, unwell, the real cost of constant motion. And since you know that I am extremely concerned, based on my own experience, I'm concerned about your life of burnout that really then shows up as living in autopilot, being on this constant treadmill, or you may feel it's a hamster wheel, just being in constant motion. So, as the theme describes, there is a cost to being in constant motion, and often you can feel unseen, and there's a lot of things that are unspoken that then result with you feeling unwell. And I want to ask you, you check in on everyone else, but who checks on you? And when was the last time you stopped long enough to listen to your own heart? I remember quite clearly that for a while, and you've heard me discuss it with you in the past, that I wore this sense of I was invincible. I could just push through. I would absorb everything that came my way. The negative, I would absorb. I would try to fix everybody's problems. I didn't want to see people sad. I didn't want to see them struggle. I felt because I was so strong that I could carry the weight. Let me carry the burden for them. And honestly, also, there was a sense of external gratification that I gained from feeling that I was somewhat the go-to person. I was the burden bearer, that I could carry that project. I could carry that department. I could carry that issue. I could support my kids. I could make things easier as much as I could for my husband. I could fill in for my extended family. I could make the sacrifice to fund someone else's concern, or or do it for them. But there was a point at which I had to realize that sucking everything up and not expressing how I felt actually did more damage and cost me more. And not only my physical health, my mental health, and also my spiritual health. And there's this myth that comes along with, if you just suck it up, just as I thought did for years, somehow you were doing the right thing. Or can I be really honest, sis? There was a time that I thought, even as an adult, that somehow I was going to win the popularity contest. I was going to win that seat at the table and be accepted. I was going to get all the promotions, and I was going to be appreciated for the self-sacrificing that I did and the going up and beyond, and doing everything for everyone. And admittedly, and especially having to do with work and working in the community, which is important, but who really were placed at risk was my family, as often that can happen for us as high achieving Christian women, because we want to do a good job. We feel called to do certain jobs or volunteer. And often the cost is truly being present. And I've been there, truly being present at family events, or with my children, or with my spouse, or with my extended family, because my mind is racing. And I was dealing with an exhaustion. And I had to realize that being seen as strong became harder to ask for help or admit fatigue. And that led to the creation of that treadmill that I was on, until it stopped, until that treadmill hit the wall, until that constant motion was suddenly stopped. It just was suddenly stopped. And I think about that as I'm sitting here thinking about it. It almost makes me think about too, just being on a conveyor belt, one of those walkers. I don't know if you've ever been in an airport or a mall or in a building where they have these electric, or I guess maybe, well, it's probably some electric, but it's one of those walkways where you can just stand and you're moving, right? And you're just going through, and you're just not connected. And that's just the way I was. And it just was not a good place, sis. It was just not a good place. And when everything hit the wall and came crashing down, I felt so lost. I felt hurt because I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to do, achievement after achievement, going up and beyond at work. Yet it really became, and I want to back up for a minute. It really was almost like living two lives. Like there was this one life where everyone was telling me, "Oh, you're so strong. Can't believe how you balance and juggle work, and you're juggling being a parent and a spouse, and you're volunteering on all these boards, and you're doing all these things, you're planning these events, you're carrying these events on your shoulder." Yet I was crumbling. I was tired, and then it was this situation where I almost felt guilty to admit I was tired. And that was a part of that cycle of just being so caught up in the achievements and the doing and the running, and again, when life hit that wall, it was a hard fall. And that really brings me, sis, to the main point that I wanted to share with you from what I learned from that story. And I know I'm not alone because I have talked to many women that are and have gone through similar situations, and I truly believe that you're here with me at this time because this resonates with you. And so I want you to know that looking like you're holding it, you're keeping it all together, you got it going on, does not mean you're okay. And ignoring internal signals that you're not doing okay, that you need to make a change, that there's constant motion of doing and running and trying to fix, something is not aligned. To continue to ignore that comes at a cost. And as I mentioned, that cost can be the feeling of anxiety, it can be the burnout, it can be feeling lost, it can be feeling disconnected from who you are and your purpose. It can be physical exhaustion. And spiritually, it can feel like you are separated from your God given calling and purpose, that you're not hearing or in a position to hear from God, all from being in constant motion to the point that trying to just be invisible and 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 or to make your struggles invisible by absorbing everything, trying to deny how you feel so you're making it invisible or trying to make it invisible to yourself and everyone else. You're not invincible. And it's so important that daily, sis, you have to continue to look at this. Because I'm going to tell you, even after my huge transformation, which has led to me being dedicated to help you gain that same transformation, it's still, once you go through that transformation, the light bulb goes off, you do the work to get yourself realigned and to reclaim who you are, you still have to make sure that daily you're checking in on yourself, because it's easy to fall back into bad habits or habits that are not the best for us, or dysfunctional coping and living. So I want to share with you a framework or approach to thinking that I use. And I call it the emotional wellness check in. And this is something that I want you to do on a daily basis. And it's a three-part self audit that you can do. First is check yourself for spiritual depletion and ask yourself the question: when was the last time you felt spiritually fed? And actually, this is so important, sis, because I know that there was a time, even, and you've heard me say, yes, I'm an ordained minister. I've been doing women's ministry for years. But there was a point that I was in this burnout that was playing out as autopilot living. And I too was in a situation where I was not being spiritually fed. I needed to be fed. And I knew that I couldn't minister and coach and support other people, other women, if I wasn't being spiritually fed. So this is something I want you to ask yourself. When was the last time you felt spiritually fed? Okay? And that could be from the worship experience if you go to church or a place of worship. It could be a Bible study or a devotional. It could be, what are you listening to? Are you listening to things that are spiritually feeding you? When was the last time you felt spiritually fed? And also I want to add before we move on, when was the last time you paused to ask God to speak to your heart, for the Holy Spirit to speak to you? Second, have you noticed that you are snapping at people, you feel so numb, or you're avoiding situations? That can be a sign of emotional leakage. It just means that it's almost like you're just so depleted and oozing, you're depleted. And if you have ever found yourself just almost having to like pump yourself up to be it to go to work or to go to a volunteer event or deal with something that you just want to curl up in bed and put the sheets over your face, it may be a sign that something needs to change, that you're not okay. And if you are finding that you are acting out of character, like it's just everything's irritating you, it could be that you have been sucking everything up and absorbing and just keep pushing ahead to the point that your cup is running over, but in the wrong way. Now it's like you have been pushed so far over the edge because no longer can you keep the pressure that's been building, because you've just been, as I said, just absorbing everybody's problems, absorbing every situation, trying to fix everything. You've been taking on everything. or giving so much out that you're not nourishing yourself to the point that there's nothing left. And you're just, any little thing irritates you. Or maybe something before you'd say, oh no, I'll take care of it. Now you want to just like go off. And people are looking at you like, what's your issue? Because now you're resentful of what they're asking you to do. And I'm not blaming you, sis. It's just the reality is you've been in constant motion and you're not replenishing, you're not refueling, you're not refreshing yourself. And that's what we call this emotional leakage that's just, there's no organized fashion to it. And lastly, mental overload. What's going on in your head? Do you feel like there's pressure? There's so many thoughts racing in your brain. Are your thoughts serving you well? Are they serving you positively? Or are they spinning around and making you spin? And you just feel like pressure and you can't think straight and you just don't know what to do. Something, it needs to change. These are sciences. These are the costs of being in constant motion that are coming out. You can have spiritual depletion, emotional leakage, and mental overload. So this can happen if you're not careful. And if you're not checking in on yourself on a regular basis, and you're not being in tuned to when you're starting to feel a certain way, you're starting to hear yourself respond a certain way, your brain is starting to react in a certain way. And I always want to let you know that there are times that you really may need to seek professional help with a psychologist or a psychiatrist if medication needed. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I want to say that. And as your life coach, I also want to give you, this is a daily thing that you can do starting today. And I kind of touched upon this a couple episodes back, is that daily 5 minutes a day you want to pause and say, how am I really doing? And I want you to write it down, sis. I want you to write it down. Because when you write it down, now let me back up. Now, we have so many things going on in our head. Yet if you write it down, you can look back at it. So I want you to start today, 5 minutes, ask yourself. And I call it the truth pause. Be really true with yourself. Take a truth pause. When you start feeling the pressure rising, I want you to ask yourself, how am I really doing? And if you're feeling misaligned and out of it, this is a time to say, am I feeling spiritual depletion? What have I done today to spiritually feed myself? What have I done to feed my spirit today? What have I done to connect with God today? Am I suffering emotional leakage? Am I snapping at people? Am I feeling numb? Am I avoiding a situation? Why am I feeling that way? Why am I feeling that way? What's really going on? Or are you on just a mental overload that your brain needs a chance to decompress? And you need to step away for a moment and take a break. There is no better time, sis, than right now. And I see you. You are here because you feel something needs to change. The way that you are operating in life, you're navigating life, is no longer serving you. It's no longer serving you. And something has to change. And you can start that today. You can start it today because you are important. You can start today. And as I always say, there's no better time than today to own your yes. What are you saying yes to? And all of that we're talking about helps you to better determine what you should be saying yes to. Your yes, your time, your purpose. I want you to live your best life. And I look forward to you every week. I hope that this episode has been helpful for you and that you will join me next week for part 2 for our Mental Health Awareness Month series. And sis, I really would appreciate you sharing this episode with another friend, a sister friend, a family member, sister, cousin, aunt, mom, grandma, anyone who can benefit. And again, thank you so much for joining me each week. And I'll see you next week here on Own Your Yes. Take care now. And do your checklist and do your audit. Love you. Bye.